2007 was a shift for you, but 2008 was really the year that changed your life completely in a few different ways, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's where, we come back to the notion of compartmentalizing, right? And the idea of being able to deal with high pressure, intense, stressful situations. And it's obviously been well documented throughout the years, but I think giving the background that we just did, it's probably more set up than I've ever given in any interview ever of what 2008 meant to me. And why it was so difficult being diagnosed with testicular cancer 2 weeks before Olympic trials. I at that time, giving everything we just talked about, I'd now established myself as the second best 200 breaststroker in the country, and am in a very good position to make my first Olympic team and kind of erase that. I don't know, trauma is the right word, but correct the memory of 2004. And so it really was a gut punch is a way to put it, but being diagnosed with testicular cancer that close to Olympic trials in 2008, after everything I'd been through for the past 4 years and every place that I had come was just brutal.
Well, obviously now you have a comfort level in talking about it, and there's probably a message that you send to men in general. What were the symptoms?
Yeah, and this is something that I spent the next decade being an advocate for, and still to this day. It extends outside of just testicular cancer, but obviously has the focus on men's health and testicular cancer. But for me, the first time, I just felt a lump. I was laying in bed one night, reading my book, and just felt a lump. That's all there was. I'm like, that's kind of weird. It doesn't hurt. It's not big or anything, because everybody remembers Lance Armstrong's story where his testicle was the size of an orange.
Yeah.
That was not my case. It was very, very early on, but just felt something that shouldn't be there. And, with the strong encouragement of Jerry, my wife, we'd been dating for a while at that time. She's like, no, you need to go see someone. Right. And I will definitely attribute her to pushing me to go see someone before Olympic trials to get it taken care of, which in the grand scheme of things, thank God she did. But that's the problem that we face in terms of a lot of cancers is people ignore symptoms.
Sure.
And they will go months or years without doing anything about it. And then when they finally do, out of necessity, they're facing stage 3, stage 4, and dire circumstances, as opposed to addressing it early and treating it early and, getting the attention that you need.
Wow. So you get this diagnosis as a couple of weeks out from Olympic trials. Just briefly, obviously, what's the decision making there then?
Yeah, the decision making was brutal, and this is something that really attributes what we were talking about earlier to the compartmentalizing of what I was able to do. So I am officially diagnosed with testicular cancer 8 days before Olympic trials starts. Okay, so I'm talking to my doctors, and at this point, I've got the Livestrong Foundation involved. They have given me access to the foremost thinkers in testicular cancer, literally the doctors who have established the current modern day protocols for not only the treatments, but the chemotherapy plans. I mean, the best in the world that are in my corner. And they all came to the agreement that, yes, you can go to trials and compete, but if you make the Olympic team, more than likely you're not going to stay on the team. You have to get treatment.
Wow.
So good luck. And that's how I went to Omaha in 2008, of the mentality that even if I make it, my dreams come true, I'm probably not going. But looking back on it, that's where I just compartmentalized it. Look at Olympic trials and stop there. Focus on the first task in front of you, not 2 or 3 steps down the line.
Wow.
Okay. Now, whether that's healthy or not is up for debate, right? And that's where you and I can get into conversations with everyone else of, taking that approach to life after swimming.
Yeah.
like you mentioned earlier. Maybe
Sure.
not the best thing to do in life, but again, that's how I approached it. And made the team and started a very difficult 6 weeks of an Olympic training camp, where the first decision was, I had to fly back to Austin, get another round of blood tests, get more chest x-rays, get another CT scan to find out if any of my markers had advanced at all.
Right.
Anything was elevated, if they saw any spread or anything like that. Everything was rock solid, was very stable, which is just dumb luck, right? Plain and simple, just lucky that I hadn't shown advancement. So they came up with a plan. When I say they, my team of doctors said, look, you can go back to training camp. If you agree to do weekly tests, this weekly battery of tests, if we see stability for the next 4 weeks while you're at training camps out in Stanford, then you can go to the Olympics and compete. The decision's on you. You have to understand that from a medical profession, we are not advocating this, but we'll give you the choice. Our recommendation is you have to get treatment immediately. But if you want the option, you have to do these tests. And if they show any signs of progression, you're done, right? And thankfully, 4 weeks of weekly monitoring and all those tests and everything else, it stayed stable. Didn't show any signs of progression.
The fear of the progression or the spread could go where?
Yeah, so it goes north, right?
Okay.
It's already a pretty southerly body part there. So from there, it will go into your lymph nodes, then your lungs, and your brain. And really, as soon as you get into lymph nodes, the recovery and the treatment increases exponentially. Where if it's stage 2 in your lymph nodes, it's full chemotherapy regimen, and it is not a fun surgery. We'll just leave it at that.
So did you compete at the Olympics in 2008 with full cancer and no treatment happening?
Correct.
Wow. I mean, that's a big decision, man. How did you sit well with that?
Well, and that's, all these years later, and having had a recurrence 3 years ago, it's, I still have no regrets, would have changed anything. How does it sit? It's, I still look back on it to this day as I wish I would have made that Olympic final, right? I ended up finishing 10th, I think. And, but at the same time, I won a best time at the Olympics in the semifinals, on the biggest stage in the world. And I did it all with cancer. So was it a failure? No, but my warped way of thinking was, man, I wish I'd have made that final. Right. Yeah. And again, it goes back to that compartmentalization, how I did it. You block everything out, you walk on that pool deck, you step behind the blocks, and nothing else matters.
Were you thinking at that stage, get me to this race and then I'm done? Or were you thinking, get me to this race, get me to treatment so that I can continue to swim?
Yeah, the latter. Get me to this race, get me to treatment, and I hope I can swim, right? Okay. I had no idea what my future held. But again, it's like, well, man, now I got here, and I got here under this guise of cancer. Well, I want to get back here and be healthy. What can I do that's healthy? So it was almost like 2008 all over again, where, well, man, I did it now, but I did it under these circumstances that may have affected my performance, may not have, who knows. But yeah, it was all right. Let's get treatment and then figure this out. But again, at that time, I had no idea if I would swim again. Everything was obviously still up in the air.
So going through what was the treatment for you once you got back?
Yeah. So for me, I was extremely fortunate. Flew back, the day after I was done swimming. There were no closing ceremonies, no celebrations for me. It was lead the Olympics and get back. So flew back to Atlanta and was treated at Emory University. And thankfully enough, so for me, I had a right-sided orchiectomy. So they removed the testicle for surgery. So that was 6 days after I competed in Beijing.
Wow.
And then the really scary part was the next 2.5 weeks, right? To wait on the biopsy results and wait on the surgical results for has this thing spread while you've left it in yourself for 2 months untreated. So that 2.5 weeks was miserable for me, waiting for those results. And I actually ended up flying up to Indiana University to see Dr. Larry Einhorn, who is one of the foremost thinkers in the field, right? He's one of the gentlemen that I referenced earlier who established the modern day treatment and the chemotherapy cocktails that they give testicular cancer patients. So I flew up to see him September 14th, 2008. He declared me, put me through another battery of testing, reviewed all my biopsy results with me from surgery, put me through one more battery of testing, and declared me cancer free the next day on September 15th of 2008. Which was fantastic. It was great, right? I don't have to do chemo. I don't need any more surgery. However, this was kind of a big but. The makeup of my tumor, and I can't tell you for the life of me what, because there's 6 types of cancerous cells within testicular cancer tumors. My tumor was made up of 3 different ones. And one of them that was 40% of the tumor was a very aggressive type. So the option that they left me with was you can take 1 round of chemotherapy, bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin, and you can essentially have a non-existent surveillance plan or a very limited surveillance plan for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
However, if you take that 1 round, which is a 3-week round of chemotherapy, you'll probably be sterile. So, you won't be able to have kids naturally. And I'm 24 years old at the time, 23 at the time. No, 24 at the time. And there's a possibility, I think it's the bleomycin. I'm going to mess that up. Whichever one of those drugs is also a respiratory inhibitor and can affect respiratory capacity. And even 1 round, could minutely affect it. Well, if I want to be an aerobic athlete in swimming, even 0.5%, that could have a major effect, especially when you're trying to be the best in the world, because everything counts. So you can take the chemo. That will all but get rid of any chances of a recurrence, in our opinion. And you won't have to see us but, once a year for the next 2 years. And then years 3, 4, and 5, basically you don't really have to do anything. Or if you don't take the chemo, you're going to come see us every 3 months for the first year for a full battery of tests, every 4 months for the second year, every 6 months for the third year, and every year for years 4 and 5, at which point you will be done with your surveillance plan.
So the options aren't great. There's a lot of stress involved. Like option 2 sounds good, but there's a lot of stress involved because you got to live with that for 4 years rather than take
exactly.
care of it.
Yep. And so every time you go to get tested, every 3 months, you're waiting for a result of, oh man, is it come back? Is it still there? So that's the path I chose to take.
Right.
And ironically enough, swam better than I have in my life for the following 3.5 years, all the way till the day I retired. So that was the path I took. And it worked. I mean, the surveillance plan that has shown incredible results in the trials around the world worked. And I made it all 5 years. That took me even beyond my swimming career. And I was officially in remission after 5 years, and then just kept up with yearly tests after that. But it was obviously a difficult choice to make, and had to keep up with it. And I did. I never missed an appointment. And still to this day, I never miss appointments. But yeah, that was what I had to do moving forward.
Is there an enlightenment, or like an awakening, a difference of appreciation of life? Did that happen to you?
It's a perspective, and yes, it is an appreciation for the little things. It is an appreciation for the relationships that you have, not only in the pool but outside the pool. It's appreciation for the little things in life, and it's appreciation for the sport, and remembering that it's fun, that it is just a sport. And that's really, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that's really what I attribute my success to for the next 3.5 years of being able to continue to improve at the ages of 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28.
do we have to go through that though? Like why do we have to get cancer to have that appreciation?
It's hard. I mean, look, when you're young, you're ignorant. Whether you think you know it all or you don't, that's just life. You think you're invincible, and it takes experiences for you to be able to learn that. And it's nothing that can be taught, right? You don't go to a class for something like that. You don't read a book for something like that. And although there are books and classes out there, but it's called a life experience. It's called living. And I don't think I've ever underestimated the impact that it has had on me.
Well, hopefully we can listen to a podcast now. It can have an effect,
Right.